Hi, Jeanette Lorraine back again. Tonight I'm touching on restraining orders and what I went through. Uh, Pretty much it was a no-brainer. It's really, really sad because I thought I had the perfect marriage. I had no idea what happened. Basically, one night my husband didn't come home for 30 days, and when he did, he came out of the bushes as Jesus Christ. And he had been Baker acted a year before, but I thought it was because he lost his business. And I really truly believe that that was what happened. And then a year later, Baker Act number 2, I found the paperwork where he was schizo, multiple personality disorder, what was the other one? Bipolar disorder. And then by Baker Act number 3 was diagnosed schizophrenia, all this other stuff. So, going into a marriage and not knowing any of this, it certainly would have helped our marriage had he told me. My ex-husband and my son both have bipolar disorder. So I am definitely no novice to this sort of thing. But he used to always tell me that, like, he had the police in his pocket. And we took up a whole road, which was like a dead end, and across from our home, it was all woods. So if you think about it, the 6 acres, and I believe where our barn entrance and pasture was, there was three homes down that dead end road. And down that dead end road was the chief of police for Kansas City, who happened to be calling my husband, who knew about the Baker Act and all the guns. He was born with these conditions, and he falsified documentation to maintain a manufacturing license. We had $500,000 worth of Class 3 weapons in our home, and this Kevin Riley actually called my husband. I have the information, and my husband, like I said in my last video, is paranoid. That's part of his disorder. He records everybody. And I had called, oh God, when he came out of the bushes as Jesus Christ, he was doing an exorcism on me, and he was just really, I'll share all that with you, the 911 calls and everything, so you could make your own judgment call on it. So this Kevin Riley basically knew about the Baker Act, knew about the guns, and a year later, when he goes off again and disappears, I had no idea, but he was smoking crack cocaine on top of being mentally ill with paranoid disorder and all these other things. So it was pretty frightening. And when I heard the recording of Kevin Riley, he was calling my husband. It wasn't my husband calling him. He called my husband, and he's like saying the police don't get involved in domestic disputes, and you need to call the police, say there's a domestic dispute, even if there's not. And he then proceeded to say that, so you can get the guns out of there, you need to tell the police your wife is acting crazy. Even if she's not acting crazy, you have to embellish the story. He then says that the system is broken, and he doesn't mind coaching him. Then he proceeded to turn his cruiser around, go to my gate. Well, he's on the phone with my husband, and he was going through my trash. He thought it was weird. There were trash bags outside. So he got out of his vehicle, popped one open to see what was in it, and said, oh, that's hay. That makes sense. So, in all my life, I have never, ever in my entire life, ever noticed how many trash bags my neighbor has put out, let alone going through them. And, the way that I can describe what I'm dealing with in my husband, I do feel very sorry for him. I do care for the society and him to get the help that he needs. I want you to know that. I don't hate him, because hate is a wasted emotion. Granted, what he did to me was horrible, and I didn't know it hit me. But shame on the chief of police, Kevin Riley, for coaching him and embellish the story, and you need to do this and set her up, and this is what you do, and pop the lock and get the guns out of there. Well, you can only imagine when he said he was Jesus Christ and had me on the ground doing an exorcism. The following day, because the day before I was so worried that I knew he went off again, so I did a wellness check, and the young officer that went to his work basically told me he was going to turn my wellness check into harassing phone calls. He told me it did not matter that my husband was Baker acted on a 10-day hold a year prior, and that if I called my husband or text him, he would arrest me for harassing him. So I really want to touch on that, because these police officers, some of them, number one, they don't have the knowledge, and unfortunately, I got a bad taste in my mouth because in Pinellas Park, these officers, not all of them, but they maybe look up to this Kevin Riley. I don't know. What I do know is the St. Pete Times did a full-page article on him, and for corruption, racism, racial slurs. He was buying alcohol on duty in a police cruiser. This is less than 5 years ago. So there was a full-page article on him in the paper. So that is clear that he's corrupt and that he should not be an officer of any kind. So with that being said, I did call Kenneth City, where he works, to try to report him, and I called his boss. His boss never called me back. From that point on, my injunction hearing, my husband went off. He said he was a Fed. He had higher surveillance than the President Obama, that he was in Vietnam after the war. He fired his lawyer 6 times. He was scratching his head like a dog. He lifted his leg to pee on the table. He was pointing his finger like a gun. He was going to shoot this guy, Keith Johnson, who owns a business that he went to, and he used his mother's badge. He was wearing it, posing as a federal marshal. He went in there and said he can shoot a Chi-Tac 9 out of 10 at 1,000 rounds, and he was going to kill Keith Johnson and execute his entire family. So my lawyer did have Keith Johnson come to the hearing, because this is all important. Again, my husband is very sick and he needs help, and I don't hate him. I want you to know that. What I do is I feel sorry for him. It's sad to see someone self-destruct. Now, he has a pattern of doing this to women every 5 to 7 years. He steals everything from them, gets lawyers involved, just totally tries to destroy their life. And as the videos go on, you're going to know more and more. But to me, it's important because he threatened to shoot the judge and everyone in the courtroom. And my lawyer even said to the judge, this man needs to be Baker acted. Well, let me tell you, he wasn't. The judge, he threatened to shoot the bailiff and everything. His mother used to be a bailiff. He said that his mother used to work in that courtroom and knew the female bailiff. So I'm wondering if there was some political favors pulled there, because I have never seen anything like it. I have the court transcripts where he threatened to shoot a judge and everyone in the courtroom. For his own safety, they should have took him into custody. I don't feel he should have went to jail because he's mentally ill. He needs long-term treatment. However, now you throw this chief of police in the mix, and when this judge only gave me the injunction for 1 year, which is really bizarre. Usually they'll do it 3 to 5. The whole thing was crazy. That's why I don't have facts. I'm assuming there's a strong possibility that my husband's mother worked for this judge, called in a favor, and the judge didn't know what to do. It was so crazy. So this Kevin Riley, when I go back, the injunction was expiring, and of course he violated it the entire time. I did amendment after amendment after amendment, even on the grounds with the court transcripts of him threatening to shoot the judge and everyone in the courtroom. When I called the state's attorney, they proceeded to tell me that they probably weren't going to pick up charges because she was getting ready to start a murder trial and really didn't think that they would have the time to do anything with it. And, you know, as a victim, that was pretty scary. You know, I never seen Bill go off the way he did, so I was really frightened. The judge let him out on the street, and oh my God, did he create havoc. He called me, and I told him I was going to record him because I knew that people just probably wouldn't believe what I was saying because it was so crazy. If you weren't in the courtroom, you wouldn't have believed it. And that's the sad thing. Injunctions are in place to keep people safe or have no contact or whatever. But for some reason, money, politics, and power, and how narcissists manufacture everything. This chief of police falsified a police report. I reported him for stalking me for my husband for over a year. Multiple officers heard the recording that my husband did of him. He was going through my trash. He said this guy Mark Berger is ahead of all uniforms, and he would call him, and he told my husband, you need to get that bitch and pop the lock and get the guns out of there. He said, and then she's dead in the water. But the fact that you have somebody that was completely mentally unstable, and like Scott Peterson, you know, regardless, this Kevin Riley knew that he was Baker acted on a 10-day hold. He knew about the guns. The fact that he was going through my trash and he kept his phone on and was stalking me for my husband, basically. And every time I reported him, nothing was done. I have the 911 calls. I will post and play for you. I also will play the communication that I had with my husband after the injunction hearing. And, you know, for the life of me, with all these shootings and all this stuff that's happening in the world, how is it that when I go back, see, the judge that did the extension was misinformed. His lawyer got a falsified police report put into evidence by Chief Kevin Riley, and I have validation and proof of that. There is absolutely no possible way that this man is going to get away with this. I just was asked to stand down till the injunction was over and then go forward with it. So I am dealing with the FDLE and everybody and their mother. That's why I'm doing these videos. I'm not much into typing. It's not my thing. You know, it really is frightening that anybody in the world would have to deal with this. And the saddest part about it, he was calling businesses of people I know saying he wasn't even supposed to have guns. The judge even heard it. He said to the Burn Fitness that he was the ghost and that they didn't know who he was and that he's a Fed and that if they really hate Jeanette, which is me, he has a silencer with a .580 handgun that he'll put in Jeff's hand with illegal ammo. It won't be on the precinct and it will be close range. Bam. Well, to me, if you really hate Jeanette, that means that he's pretty much saying, I want you to do something close range and shoot her in the face or whatever was going through his mind. He was dressed as Rambo. He had a machete, a bow and arrow that goes through a bulletproof vest. I mean, I have been through it all. And I'm just utterly disgusted because the original judge with the restraining order, well, he didn't have all this information. And when you have a lawyer, you can't speak up really and say anything. So the judge was totally misinformed and he went off the falsified police report, which sucks for me because he didn't give me an extension. He didn't give me anything. The injunction is expired and this sick man that's been Baker acted that I know of 3 times. First time 10-day hold, second 12-day hold, third time 12-day hold. And if you know anything about mental illness and Baker acts, they usually only hold you for 72 hours. So you have this chief of police, who's already been in trouble and lost his job in Pinellas Park, well, he resigned because that was his only way.